for people. There we go. Recording started and we should be good to go. I'll go ahead and give an introduction for myself and kind of what we're here to do today. So I work for Off-Campus Partners. So we work directly with the university to provide an off-campus housing website where individual properties and individual owners can list their properties for students to rent. And so I'll walk you through the site a little bit, give you a bit of an overview of how to use the site and some best practices and in looking for your housing. And so we'll talk through a little bit of that and even chat through the roommate section as well, just in case you are looking for that. So we can go ahead and jump right in and I will give you an overview. All right. And it says participants can see my screen, so I'm hoping that it's all coming through right. If you can't see it, Christina, just let me know. But yeah, we're here to try to help simplify your off-campus housing search. And we provide a one-stop shop for you to be able to find housing, reach out to individual apartments, communicate with them, organize which places you've reached out to, what you're interested in, and then also find roommates. So we really try to make this as easy as possible for you. We know finding housing is difficult, and so it can be stressful, especially moving into a new area that you might not be so familiar with. So we've got some tools in here we'll kind of talk through. We've got a housing search, roommate finder, a bunch of educational resources, and for students, faculty, and staff, you can actually post sublets. You can search for sublets. So if you might be moving at a weird time or it feels a little awkward timing, you might be able to find a sublet that might have move-in dates that are a little different. And then we can also talk through a little bit of how to avoid scams and what that looks like and where to find some information on that as well. So as a brief overview, I wanted to include this in the presentation here so that you're able to have it, but we'll talk through how to create an account, some sorting and filter options, transits, how you can see what your commute will look like, and then a few other little tools in here as well. And so we'll go ahead and go through a site demo quickly. We try to make the site as user-friendly as possible. So we want you to, sorry, I have to move a couple things on the screen, but we want you to be able to find housing quickly and easily. That's our goal. So when you come to the off-campus housing website at offcampushousing.emory.edu, you'll be able to find the housing site here. So let's see, my mouse isn't working. This is where the homepage where you'll come into. You've got some announcements here. So if there are any housing fairs or anything like that, those would show up here for you to register for them, find out information on those as well. And then we can click right here to view the rentals that are in the area. Avoiding scams is always important. You know, we do our due diligence to try to make sure to limit scams as much as possible on the site. But over and over again, we see that scammers are targeting students. And so, especially if this is one of your first times renting, first, second, third time, always be vigilant for potential scams. Don't give someone your rent money without seeing the space. There are some red flags that you can look for. I would definitely recommend looking at our online safety tips. It's a pretty decent read. But we'll give you some ideas for what are some typical scams that are out there and how to really protect yourself. I really hate seeing when students are, you know, you're doling out your rent money and your deposit money, and you're really put in a hard place when that ends up not being a legitimate listing. So again, we do really try to make sure that all of the listings on our site are verified listings, but if you ever find something that makes you feel a little weird, always reach out to us. You can contact us. I'll have the contact information at the end of this presentation with email, phone number. reach out and we can evaluate that individual and specific listing for you, and let you know our thoughts. There could be history on it, and it could be someone who's listed with us for years, and they're perfectly fine. We haven't had any red flags or any issues, but always be safe instead of being sorry. So feel free to reach out to us at any time, but we'll go ahead and view some rentals here. So you'll come onto this site. This is the housing search section, and you'll see we've got an interactive map here. You can drag and drop around, see the area. I do love this draw tool as well. So you can click the pencil and you can actually draw a little shape, and it'll narrow down the search to something within that area. You can see even just on the outskirts, it'll leave a couple options in there just in case you accidentally drew your outline a little too tight. But we'll remove that outline, and that actually filters down everything that's here on the right side. So that's a really neat tool. And then you can also search by neighborhoods and to see where you might want to live. If you know the name of your neighborhood, that could be really helpful. The other piece here is map tools. So this is really helpful. So this public transit, that'll pull in some of the MARTA stops that are right around the area. So you can see what properties might be close to those individual stops. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull those off, but I like to talk a little bit about pricing and how to filter in a way that's beneficial. So if you're doing a 1-bed, 1-bath or a studio and you're just by yourself, filter away for price. No problem there at all. But ultimately with roommates, that's when this gets a little weird. So if your budget is $1,200 per month, and I'm just throwing numbers out there, say your budget's $1,200 a month and you're going to have 2 roommates. If you set your maximum to $1,200, and that property is listing the entire house potentially for sale or for rent per month, that could be a 1,200 times 3. So make sure you take that into account when you're filtering by price, because you could accidentally be limiting your options more than you really need to. And you could be missing a really great opportunity. It could end up actually being cheaper than you're expecting. But just make sure that you're keeping your roommates in mind, and the total cost of renting that space in mind when you're filtering. That's the biggest thing I see people mistake. Pricing type is really important too. So per bedroom and per unit. So there's something called an individual lease and a joint lease. So for individual leases, you're on your own by yourself. Even if you have roommates, you're only responsible for your own rent. So your roommates stop paying, no big deal. The management company goes after them, and you've still got your room, you're good to go. So per bedroom is you're on an individual lease. Per unit is going to be the entire space. So all 4 bedrooms, all 2 bedrooms, the entire house. And what this typically means is that you're going to be on a joint lease. So you're going to be on the lease with other people. Make sure that if you sign a joint lease with people, that you trust them, because ultimately, life happens, right? People have family emergencies, people have to leave for whatever reason. And if they leave and you're still in that lease with them, you are responsible for all of that rent, even if they told you they were going to pay it. So make sure you're not trying to pay someone else's rent in addition to your own. Be safe, be thoughtful with that, and use this filter. Make sure that you're living with people that you trust and that you know. Some typical filters like beds and baths here, pretty easy. The building type is nice. If you know you want a house or an apartment community, you can see that the numbers on the side indicate the number of listings that filter option will show. So there would be 60 apartments that are going to show here, 29 houses, and that's going to limit down your options pretty tight. One more section here, and then we'll kind of dig into it a little bit. But under the more section, there's a few different things that I think are really helpful. The move in between range, you can specifically identify the timeline that you want to move in. So you can say between May and June, you know exactly when you want. If you have a specific month, you can select that as well. And then, Here we go. And then you can also the lease terms. So say you're only going to be here academic year. You're going back home, you're studying abroad this summer. Might be nice to know that you have the option for an academic year lease or even just specific sublets. You can also filter by pet friendly, a bunch of amenities. This one I also like to point out, which is international student friendly. What this means is that even if you aren't a resident of the United States, these properties should have some kind of process in place in order to rent to you, even without, a social security number, potentially without a guarantor or co-signer. So that might be helpful to keep in mind as you are looking for housing in the Atlanta area. All right, so the other big one is this sort filter. So closest to campus. That's really helpful. If you're not going to have a car, you really just want to walk, you can filter specifically by closeness to campus, and that can filter this down here for you really nicely. So you can see a bunch of different properties here. Like say Emory Point is right there. You see the little dot light up in blue when I hover over it. So you can see exactly where these properties are and then take it from there. So the virtual tours, this is essentially 3D Matterports. It's like Google Street View, but for the inside of a building. I won't walk you through it. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can click around, walk through the space, and see what that's going to feel like based on, here's the 1 bed, 1 bath, 1 bed. Oh, that's the same one. And then just different floor plans, and you can kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like before you ever visit the property. So it could be really helpful. We'll go ahead and click through to this. And we can see a bunch of pictures. All of their floor plans are here. And then if this has a specific move-in date, like say in June or July, it'll specify those specific dates when that specific floor plan would be open. What this means is that they're probably already leasing for the summer. They might have some flexibility. Always reach out. You're going to have to call somebody. I know it's annoying. I know it's painful. I don't like calling people either, but you're going to have to call people. If you want the most up-to-date, the best rates, the best rent discounts or promos, you're going to need to call them because that's how you're going to get the best information. I'll show you another one here that I already pulled up. Gables Montclair, which is close by also. You can see 0.8 miles to the university. They're having a rent special right now, so ask about it. I mean, hurry before they're gone. So it's limited. It might already be done, but ultimately you can even see some rent specials in here. So again, with that availability, 526, 723, those are when those specific units are going to be coming open. Again, call them because it might have leased literally today. So those things can change. You can see a bunch of expenses, one-time fees, recurring fees. So they've got some pet rent going on. Got a nice little description here, a bunch of amenities. We're just going to whoosh through those real quick. I want to show you the commute to campus. So ultimately, if you're going to drive, if you're going to walk, if you're going to bike, or if you're going to take the transit, you can see what that's going to look like. So point A to point B, B is the university. Looks like you're going to walk a little bit, hop on a bus, and then walk a little bit more. So pretty easy, 15-minute transit, not too bad. Definitely use this because it might look pretty different based on your location. And this is going to pull in information from Translock, which is the university busing system, and then also through Google Transit. So a little bit more information here. If you are, if you have kids, there's some school information here as well. But also, what is this specific property rating? What is the neighborhood around it like? So very walkable, 79 out of 100. That means not that it's 15 minutes away from the university, but this means that it has sidewalks, it has crosswalks, it's well built for walking. Has some decent transit, 32 out of 100. So not a great score, But there is some transit available right around that property. Looks like getting to the university wouldn't be too difficult though. Decent walk, but not too bad. Bikeable, 60 out of 100, so got some bike lanes maybe. Looking pretty good there. And then active, the sound score here. So 72 out of 100. There's going to be some traffic, it looks like. There's not an airport or tons of businesses around, so you've got that, but it's going to be a potentially busy intersection, busy street. So know what you're getting into before you ever reach out to them. That's our goal. So in order to, I already signed in a second ago, but if you were to sign up, I think it's going to sign me back in. It is. So I will sign out real quick and show you exactly what that looks like in order to create your account. So you click sign up, and then only Emory students, faculty, and staff can actually send emails through the site. If you have a parent or family member that's helping you find stuff, you can always sign up for a guest account as well, and they can help you look around. But when you click sign up, you are going to put in your name, some information, your school email, your affiliation, how you learned about us, and then approximate move-in date. This doesn't matter too much. You can put whatever, and then you can change that later pretty easily. I always recommend saying yes to emails because this is going to help keep you up to date on potential events around housing and that kind of thing. And then, would you like to receive special offers from our marketing partners? I'm sure we're not, or I promise you, we're not going to spam you. But this could also be in relation to housing events. And you just click register and you are good to go. I will show you, let's see, I will show you the roommate section here in just a second. I won't do it live just for the privacy of those individuals. But you can also add a listing. So as a student, you can add one of those as well and manage it from there. So we will hop straight back over into the presentation really quick. And so this is the landing page of the roommate finder. So you can register with a student email. Only students can be in the roommate finder. So you know anybody that you reach out to is a verified student. They're a real person. They might not be your perfect fit, but they're at least a real person. So that's really helpful. And they do go to Emory, so you know who you'll be living with. You will go ahead and create a profile, and you can put in things like gender, cleanliness, classification, whatever's important to you. You can specify that, and then after 30 days, any inactive accounts are going to go inactive. So you know anybody that's in there has also been actively looking for housing within the last 30 days or so. So really helpful information, a great tool for Emory students, especially if you're transferring into the university. You might not really know people yet. So reach out to people. You can upload you can link, your social media accounts, connect, hop on a phone call, text back and forth, whatever you want to do. But you can potentially find some really great roommates this section. It is a bit seasonal, so there might be more now than later. But if you're not seeing people that you feel like you jive with, hop back on in a couple weeks and see if there's someone else that you might be able to room with. So now we can go on to the questions section. I will go ahead and stop screen sharing, and then we can kind of go through the chats. I'm not sure what all questions you all may have, but let's see.
I've answered a few questions already, and then I'm
Okay.
answering one here from Erica just about where to find the recording. But I will just say that aloud. It's going to be on the same website where the Zoom link was, but then also it's going to be in the Welcome app, the Emory Welcome app. So if you haven't seen that yet, that should be available to you. There's a specific transfer student portion of that app, and we're going to also have these webinars linked there as well, so you could easily access it from your phone.
Great. Thanks for that, Christina. Any other questions? Any specific questions anyone has? I will say, typical timeline, like when to start looking for housing in the Emory area. There's a lot of what's called conventional housing in that area. So what that means is it's a place where they might not necessarily be a typical student renting apartment community. And so you might have a lot of joint leases. So that's one thing. But the other piece is things aren't going to be available quite as early sometimes. So I would say within the 60 to 90 day period, which we're pretty much in now, things will start coming available. You'll be able to get actual availability for some properties. It's going to take some time. Finding housing is tough. I'm glad I have mine now. So it's not an easy process, but be organized with it, write stuff down, make a little spreadsheet, whatever it is that you need to do to keep yourself organized. But ultimately, if you find something that you think it just works, it fits, it's the right price, it's a good location, I always recommend go for it when you know you've got it. Don't let people pressure you into signing a lease early or prematurely. You know, if someone says, if you don't sign it by 4 o'clock today, then it's going to go to someone else. If you really want it, go for it. But ultimately, don't feel pressured because there will be other options. It might not be the exact same option, but there will be other options. We do have independent owners that are listing on the site as well. So people who have an individual house, maybe they're renting or they're renting a unit in a property or a room in their house. So know what you're getting into, know what you're renting, know who you're reaching out to, and that's going to save you a lot of trouble too. But ultimately, there are a lot of options on the site, and you should be able to use some different filters to be able to locate something that'll work for you. Any other questions?
Sorry, there was a question, and I'll just address it because it came up a couple of times. So the reason that we're having this webinar specifically for our transfer students is that on-campus housing for our transfer student population is limited. I don't have an exact number on how many, so to speak, beds are available for transfer students. But that is why we host this webinar so that you guys have all the information. And Blake has been generous enough to go through the whole process so you can see just how many options are out there. So I apologize, I don't have an exact number, but it is limited for transfer students because first year students at Emory are required to live on campus. Are there any other questions? Oh, one more just popped in.
Thanks.
Does the signing the application mean that we have to find some housing at Emory? Is that what the legally binding part of the contract means? Are you specifically talking about the housing application that's online? I don't have the answer to that. I would reach out to our housing department. And that would be the campus life at emory.edu. I would reach out to them to ask that question. I would lean to saying that doesn't mean you're going to get housing, because you may not get the housing just because you filled out the application, if that makes sense. Again, just because it's limited, but I would definitely just reach out to them to get an accurate answer on that.
And if you have already confirmed your housing, sometimes there's a cancellation deadline. You can definitely get that information from them directly. That's going to be the best place, but yeah, definitely good answer. Any leases that you sign off campus, that is going to be legally binding. So Don't just sign something and think maybe I'll change it later, because chances are that you will not end up being able to get out of that lease. You might have to pay money to break that lease, and pay money to potentially find somebody else to cover that for you. So be careful with off-campus housing for sure, just to make sure that you aren't putting yourself in a tough spot, because that is legally a binding lease agreement for off-campus housing. But yeah, let's see. Christina, you might be best to answer that question.
Yes. So yeah, the recording should be available tomorrow. Once we finish, I send the link off to the person that handles our website and then they post it. So hopefully it's up there by end of day tomorrow. If there are no other questions, then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Blake, thank you so much for jumping on here and going through all that for us. I think it'll be really helpful. And then you did provide some contact information, right? It was on the
Yes.
presentation. Okay.
Yep, at the end of the presentation, that'll be in there, and I'll send that over to you, Christina, so that you can send that out as well, to anybody who might need it. Do you have email addresses for people
What do you like?
for the presentation, contact information, all of that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, okay, perfect.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys for joining. If you have any questions, yeah, use that contact information that was provided, or you can reach out to our orientation team at ec.orientation@emory.edu. Great. Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.